Right at 6:10 p.m. on March 27, the lead pilot felt a slight vibration ripple through his F-16 Fighting Falcon as the F-110 GE-129 engine roared to life behind him. Nearly 29,000 pounds of thrust slammed him back into his seat, sending the jet hurtling down the runway. That night, 20 US F-16 lifted off one after another from Udeid Air Base, accelerating hard before pulling up into the dark sky. The formation quickly climbed to 32,000 feet, heading north across the Persian Gulf with a single objective: Iran's port city of Bandar Abbas. The ground crews watching had no idea they were witnessing the start of one of the most complex long-range airstrike missions ever launched from Udeid. The lead F-16 carried two 2,000-pound GBU, 31 JDAMs, GPS-guided bombs capable of punching through reinforced concrete before detonating. The accompanying jets were armed with 1,000-pound GBU, 32 JDAMs, better suited for hitting fuel depots, hangars, and logistics facilities around the port. Behind him, 18 more F-16s carried similar loadouts. Every pilot knew they were pushing their aircraft close to its limits in both weight and range. Conformal fuel tanks CFTs, mounted along the spine of each F-16, held an additional 900 gallons of JP-8 fuel, significantly extending their combat radius. Under standard conditions, an F-16 has a combat radius of about 550 kilometers, but with CFTs, external fuel tanks, and aerial refueling, it could strike targets more than 1,200 kilometers away and still make it back safely. As the formation passed 25,000 feet, the lead jet's inertial navigation system, integrated with military-grade GPS, began calculating the optimal route to Bandar Abbas. The system's margin of error was just a few meters, even under attempted signal jamming. Launching from a secure base deep inside Qatar, rather than a forward position that could be easily monitored, meant Iran had no early warning. By the time coastal radar picked up the formation, the F-16s were already too close. At 6:26 p.m., the lead pilot leveled off at cruising altitude and adjusted course northward over the Gulf. Ahead lay hundreds of kilometers of potentially monitored airspace, a complex mid-air refueling operation, and a target many analysts believed was out of reach for fighters launching from Qatar. There was just one problem. Even with external tanks, the 20 F-16s were heavily loaded with weapons, and the distance pushed their fuel margins to the edge. If refueling didn't happen within the first 90 minutes, the entire formation might have to turn back, or worse, run out of fuel over the Persian Gulf. By 7:38 p.m., the lead pilot was locked onto his fuel gauge. The numbers lined up almost perfectly with mission planners' projections, but those calculations assumed everything went exactly as planned. After an hour and a half in the air, fuel consumption was still on track, but in a mission like this, there was zero room for error. If they didn't link up with the tanker in the next few minutes, they'd have to abort and return to Udeid, bombs still hanging under their wings. No one in the cockpit wanted that outcome. Just as the flight lead was about to make the call, 4 Boeing KC-707 tankers appeared ahead, holding steady at 35,000 feet. Their boom operators were already preparing for one of the most demanding aerial refueling operations of their careers. Each F-16 needed between 3,000 and 3,500 pounds of fuel, just enough to reach Bandar Abbas, complete the strike, and return to friendly airspace. There wasn't a second to waste. The KC-707's rigid refueling boom, extending from the rear of the aircraft, could pump fuel at nearly 1,000 gallons per minute, fast enough to service multiple fighters in rapid succession without lingering in dangerous airspace. Each tanker carried over 90,000 pounds of transferable fuel and could stay airborne for hours. But on this mission, everything had to happen fast, precise, and flawless, because even a few minutes of delay could bring the entire operation crashing down. As the formation moved in to rendezvous with the tankers, the lead pilot made the call over the radio. He carefully guided his roughly 37,000-pound F-16 Fighting Falcon, fully loaded with fuel and weapons, into position behind the lead tanker. Both aircraft held steady at around 300 knots, flying so close together that every movement had to be as precise as a delicate surgical procedure in the sky. At the rear of the Boeing KC-707, the boom operator lay prone inside a glass compartment in the tail. From there, he controlled the long metal refueling boom, slowly guiding it toward the fuel receptacle on the F-16's spine. The hydraulic system allowed him to fine-tune every movement down to the millimeter. Even the slightest mismatch in speed, altitude, or heading could break the connection instantly. In the worst case, the boom could strike the aircraft and destabilize both planes. Throughout the process, the operator had to constantly compensate for turbulence, aircraft vibration, and the aerodynamic forces created as two massive machines, flying at hundreds of miles per hour. Tried to connect mid-air. Contact. Came the call over the radio, as the boom locked into place with a sharp metallic click. Over the next 3 minutes, nearly 3,200 pounds of JP-8 fuel flowed from the KC-707 into the fighter, while both aircraft maintained perfectly stable formation. Without aerial refueling, US F-16s launching from Udeid Air Base would only be able to strike targets within roughly 550 to 600 kilometers. That would put many strategic targets in Iran, including Bandar Abbas, out of reach. But with mid-air refueling, their combat radius stretched beyond 1,200 kilometers, allowing them to strike deep and still make it home. It also meant that no logistical facility in Iran's Persian Gulf region could consider itself completely safe. Once the last F-16 disconnected from the final tanker, the entire strike package had crossed the point of no return. By 9:45 p.m., Iran's coastline appeared on their infrared sensors. Bandar Abbas was still operating as usual, container cranes moving, cargo ships docked, and busy logistics zones lit up under the yellow glow of port lights. No one on the ground had any idea that more than 40 precision-guided bombs were closing in at supersonic speed. At exactly 10:10 p.m., the final target came into clear view. The Bandar Abbas port complex stretched along the Persian Gulf coastline, sharply defined through thermal imaging, massive container cranes, logistics warehouses, fuel storage tanks, and a pier system extending nearly 2 kilometers, making it one of Iran's most critical transportation hubs. Each F-16's AN/AAQ-28 Lightning targeting pod was running at full capacity. Its gimbal system could rotate 360 degrees, maintaining lock even during high-G maneuvers of 5 to 6 Gs. Thermal imaging cut through the darkness, while the high-zoom TV camera let pilots study targets from dozens of kilometers away. Through the pod's optics, the lead pilot quickly confirmed they were exactly where they needed to be. Military storage facilities were interspersed among the port's commercial infrastructure. Some buildings had reinforced roofs and cooling systems, clear signs of sensitive equipment storage. Massive fuel tanks near the main pier held millions of liters of diesel supporting port operations. But a few 2,000-pound bunker buster hits could turn them into massive fireballs visible from miles away. According to intelligence, most of Iran's drone components, military electronics, and strategic supplies in the region passed through these facilities. That made Bandar Abbas a critical node in Iran's entire logistics network across the Persian Gulf. At that moment, 2 large container ships sat docked at the main pier. Their crews had no idea that a strike package was inbound from the night sky, and that the first bombs were less than a minute away. Around the warehouses, armed Iranian guards could be seen on patrol, protecting what they believed was a secure logistics hub, one far beyond the reach of airstrikes launched from Qatar. But high above them, 20 US F-16 Fighting Falcons were already in position. The countdown had begun, and they were about to find out just how wrong they were. The moment the lead pilot had visual contact through his canopy, he gave the signal to begin the strike. His F-16 rolled slightly, then tipped into a 25 to 30 degree dive, lining up directly with the port of Bandar Abbas. Beneath the aircraft, the AN/AAQ-28 Lightning targeting pod continuously processed data. Its onboard computer updated target coordinates in real time, automatically compensating for wind, aircraft speed, and atmospheric conditions, ensuring the JDAM would hit within just a few meters of its mark. The first 2,000-pound GBU-31 JDAM was armed. In just 60 seconds, a precision-guided bomb would strike Bandar Abbas, showing Iranian forces exactly why assuming Udeid Air Base was too far away for a rapid strike had been a critical miscalculation. At 10:23 p.m., the lead pilot's first GBU-31 hit the port's main container crane. This wasn't just a large bomb, it was a precision weapon built to destroy hardened structures. Its hardened steel penetrator punched through over 1.8 meters of reinforced concrete, before roughly 430 kilograms of tritonal detonated inside the target. The massive crane, capable of lifting tens of tons, collapsed like twisted scrap metal as the explosion tore through its structural core. But that was only the beginning. Every 15 seconds, another JDAM found its target with near mathematical precision. Each strike was carefully timed to maximize damage while preventing overlapping blast interference. The second strike targeted the port's fuel storage area, 6 massive tanks holding tens of thousands of gallons of diesel. The GBU-31's penetrator focused its explosive force into the tank walls, ripping through thick steel before igniting a towering fireball that shot hundreds of meters into the night sky over the Persian Gulf. The third and fourth strikes hit the main logistics warehouses, where Iran stored military equipment and strategic supplies. Each 2,000-pound warhead delivered explosive force equivalent to more than 400 kilograms of TNT, enough to collapse reinforced concrete walls and detonate any munitions inside. Within seconds, secondary explosions began rippling across the area. Fuel drums, military gear, and flammable materials ignited in rapid succession, triggering a violent chain reaction. On the ground, Iranian forces finally realized what was happening. Through the targeting pod, the lead pilot could see figures scattering between buildings. Some guards fired their weapons into the air. Others shouted frantically into radios. But at altitudes between 32,000 and 35,000 feet, the F-16s were completely out of range of small arms and light anti-aircraft guns positioned around the port. Iran's long-range air defense systems were primarily deployed to protect major cities and strategic bases, not this port, which they believed was beyond the reach of fighters launching from Qatar. The systematic destruction continued. Strikes 5 through 8 were aimed directly at the port's pier structures. Each JDAM was programmed with highly precise GPS coordinates, targeting the connection points between the pier supports and the main deck. As those critical structural nodes were destroyed, entire sections of the pier began collapsing into the water. Even if some cranes remained intact, unloading cargo from ships became completely impossible. By 10:37 p.m., just 4 minutes after the first strike, a large portion of Bandar Abbas port had been effectively shut down. Massive concrete structures, designed to withstand storms and heavy ship impacts in the Persian Gulf, were reduced to rubble by modern precision-guided weapons. Even if Iran could repair the damage, they no longer had functional cranes, fuel storage, or intact piers to handle large-scale shipments anytime soon. But Iran's logistics network didn't stop at the port. They had also built industrial facilities and production depots deeper inland, allowing them to assemble, store, and distribute military equipment locally. And those facilities, deeper inside Iranian territory, were next on the target list for the F-16, still moving through the night sky. By 10:42 p.m., with flames from Bandar Abbas still lighting up the sky behind them, 4 US F-16 Fighting Falcons in the formation lined up for the next strike. This time, the target didn't look like anything special from the air, certainly not like a high-risk military site. It appeared to be nothing more than a large industrial concrete plant near the port. But according to US intelligence, it was a critical target that needed to be taken out. At first glance, using precision-guided bombs on a concrete factory might sound like overkill. But intelligence analysis revealed the facility was far from ordinary. Iranian military engineers had quietly modified it to produce ultra-high-strength concrete, using specialized additives that allowed for the construction of bunkers and underground structures capable of withstanding conventional bombing. Over the past 2 years, many of Iran's underground weapons depots, command centers, and tunnel systems in the region had been built using materials from this facility. Destroying it meant cutting off their ability to build hardened defenses going forward. Through the AN/AAQ-28 Lightning targeting pods, the F-16 pilots could clearly see the sprawling industrial complex, covering dozens of hectares. Concrete mixing towers nearly 40 meters tall rose above the site, connected by massive conveyor systems that moved cement and aggregate between processing areas. Most civilian workers had already evacuated once the explosions at the port began, but Iranian security forces remained, trying, unsuccessfully, to defend the facility. At 10:54 p.m., the lead pilot's wingman released the first 1,000-pound GBU-32 JDAM, aimed directly at the central mixing tower. Its warhead carried about 200 kilograms of tritonal, more than enough to rip apart heavy industrial machinery, electrical systems, and reinforced metal structures. Seconds after impact, the bomb punched through the reinforced concrete shell of the tower before detonating inside. A massive cloud of concrete dust, twisted metal, and debris erupted across the complex. The 40-meter tower snapped in half and collapsed onto nearby buildings, instantly wiping out the plant's core production capability. The second and third strikes targeted the cement silos, massive storage units capable of holding hundreds of tons of raw material. The explosions tore them open, releasing huge clouds of cement dust that mixed with fire and smoke from the destroyed equipment. Within seconds, the entire industrial site was engulfed in thick dust and chaos. The final strike hit the plant's electrical substation, the power source for the entire operation. The blast completely destroyed the electrical system. Without power, any remaining equipment became useless, and restoring operations would require rebuilding nearly the entire facility from scratch. The level of precision needed to hit specific components within the complex, while avoiding nearby civilian structures, highlighted the capability of JDAM-guided weapons. Even from high-altitude release, their margin of error was only about 5 meters. By 11:26 p.m., the concrete production facility was almost completely destroyed. That meant Iran had just lost its ability to produce the specialized materials needed for new hardened defensive structures. From that point on, underground bases and bunkers in the region would have to rely on existing infrastructure, making them increasingly vulnerable to future US airstrikes. More importantly, years of industrial investment had been wiped out in less than 20 minutes from the start of the attack.